why the Super Bowl kind of sucks. For non-American, I want to hear what the Super Bowl is about. Like I know it's one of the biggest like sporting event in America. So let's hear why it sucks.
How many times can a person get tugged? Well, we have found the limit at X.
Right there. What?
Tugg.com, where you can see exclusive content.
Okay, let's.
How many times can a person get tugged? Well, we have found the limit at extratug.com, where you can see exclusive content that I say dirty things in. Go check it out. Super Bowl Sunday, the closest thing Americans can get to a real holiday without getting a day off from work. We stuff our faces with the physical embodiment of mortal sin known as buffalo chicken dip. Wash it down with a symphony of differently branded water-adjacent light beers, all while grown men concuss themselves on the gridiron of glory. Over time, the Super Bowl has become much bigger than itself, almost a parody of what it used to be. Much to the dismay of real football fans, Super Bowl Sunday is becoming more about the party that surrounds the game rather than the game itself. It's the celebrities, musicians.
Yeah, and like I only hear about what's like who is playing at the Super Bowl, not the Super Bowl itself. Like who's singing at the Super Bowl, who's like the main event in the Super Bowl. Like I don't hear anything about the Super Bowl itself. It's just like, oh, like this so and so is singing at the Super Bowl. So and so is the main event of the Super Bowl. Like I don't hear anything about the Super Bowl itself. Like the games in it. Like it's literally like a halftime show. Like lots of halftime shows.
Fanfare that we celebrate, not the genetic freaks we see on the field. Honestly, the people who show up to the Super Bowl party and actively ignore the game seem like they're having the most fun. Because they're not, you know, screaming at the TV. They didn't bet $300 on a play that obviously wasn't gonna happen. If it just hits, we can go to Disney this year, kids. But is that such a bad thing? You know, do you need to care about football to enjoy the Super Bowl? Well, let's find out just exactly where things started to head south or north, and at the same time, find out why your dad, who exclusively wears a Lions quarter zip to work, why he tells you to shut the f up during the game. So once again, Chris, hit me with the flashback. We're going back in time as we always do at the beginning of Big Tugg videos. Whoa, flashback. Football was pretty much front and center at the first Super Bowl because, yeah, no shit, they didn't really know what entertainment was back then. Even though the NFL began all the way back in 1920, the first inaugural how the f do you say that word? Inaugural Super Bowl didn't take place until 1967. And the reason the big game was created in the first place was because of a little upstart called the American Football League. The NFL had squashed out all of its competition for the first 4 decades of its existence, but the AFL, established in 1960, had some money to spend, brother. They would be stomped out easily. It was run by a...
Why is it called American football? Like it would it be more like sensible to call it American rugby, right? Because like it's not football. You're running with an oval shaped ball, football shaped ball, running, throwing it and catching it and running towards it. Like you're not kicking it with your foot. Like I would understand if they call it American rugby because that actually would make lots more sense. Because like American rugby is just like rugby with more paddings, like or like different rules. Like it's more understandable. Like right.
Fella named Lamar Hunt, who was a son of a very famous oil tycoon out of Texas and was the heir to his massive fortune. The AFL was luring away top talent with massive contracts, like giving college star Joe Namath a then unheard $427,000 salary. I didn't adjust that for inflation, that's probably pretty normal, but at the time that was insane. And they even gained a foothold in the television market with an exclusive $36 million deal with NBC. For a few years, the leagues tried to coexist, you know, tried to live together in harmony. They even had a gentleman's agreement where they decided they wouldn't poach talent from each other's leagues. But of course, like any peace treaty a white man signs, it didn't last for long. The owners of the teams became worried that if they started sniping each other's talents, bidding wars would start driving up players' salaries and hurting their bottom line. So in 1966, they decided to do the twin fusion move and put their leagues together. But even before the leagues officially combined their business operations, they decided to take the step of unifying their brands by creating an AFL NFL World Championship game. So in January of 1967, the world's first Super Bowl took place. So it would be hard to imagine just how insane the Super Bowl would become if you attended the first one, because this was a far cry from what we think of the Super Bowl as today. Well, it wasn't even close, not even a little bit. Today, tickets to the game cost around like $8,600 just to get a seat. Back in 1967, you could get a ticket for $6 or $12 if you wanted to bool out. And even if you adjust for inflation, that's still only like $100 per ticket. And I'm pretty sure that's the cost of a stadium beer nowadays. But even at those incredibly cheap prices, there were about 32,000 empty seats in the stadium for numero uno. No one really gave a shit about the Super Bowl. The first Super Bowl, no one really cared at all. At least not like they do today. And they tried to make things better. Like they tried to zhuzh up the halftime show, and that was a disaster. It featured 2 college marching bands and a drill team from a local high school. A local goddamn high school. But don't worry, we have a surprise act that's gonna save the show. Guest trumpeter Al Hurt. You know Al Hurt. You guys love Al Hurt, right? Just for context, if you don't know about Al Hurt, that makes complete sense. He wasn't even cool at the time. This wasn't Miles Davis or John Coltrane playing the trumpet in front of everybody. Al Hurt played Dixieland jazz, like the shit you hear in the back of like really silly blooper reels. Like no one was into this. And for the grand finale, they had a fantastic idea. At the end of the game, they released 10,000 helium balloons and a bunch of pigeons, like 100 pigeons. Not the Blue Angels, but it's something. So yeah, a far cry from the current Super Bowl model that...
So they're literally made Super Bowl not for the games, but for the for the halftime shows. Like the Super Bowl is not even like for the fucking actual football. It's for people to watch the football for a few minutes and look at like the halftime shows for like minutes on end.
We have today. And like also we called it the Super Bowl retroactively. Like that was not the name of the event until 3 Super Bowls in. Lamar Hunt called the game the Super Bowl in interviews, claiming he was inspired by the Whammo brand Super Bowl his kids were playing with at the time. And the name wasn't even popular at the time. Like people in the NFL and the fans thought it was fucking stupid, but the press loved it, so we stuck with it. Now it is the Super Bowl. But where do you go when you start at the Mariana Trench of bottoms? Well, surely nowhere but up. From its humble beginnings, the Super Bowl slowly became an American institution. Of the 10 most watched TV broadcasts in American history, 9 of them are the Super Bowl. The only thing in history that Americans watched more than the big game was the Apollo 11 landing, and they just tuned in because they were sure they were going to watch people die, and that's kind of why people tuned into the Super Bowl in the first place. The game has even gone global, broadcasting live to over 195 countries or territories in over 25 languages. The Super Bowl's popularity seemed to be a steady trajectory upward, and there's an argument to be considered that its popularity is completely tied with an abundance of consumerism. And if you thought I was going to do a whole big Tugg episode on the Super Bowl and not mention the horrors of capitalism, what the f did you think I'm going to do here? The more popular the Super Bowl has become, the more advertisers are willing to spend on it. And all that leads to more than $17 billion spent by consumers in the United States on Super Bowl related purchases. That being like the food you get for the game, or like a jersey you get for your dad, or like the streaming service you decide to sign up for because that's what the game's going to be on this week. The NFL needs to figure out streaming, Jesus Christ. Not to mention the economic impact for the host city that can reach upwards of $1 billion. And now we're at the part where the Super Bowl has officially grown out of its toddler clothes. It needs it's exploding. It's so ubiquitous and overreaching that even if you don't watch the sport, you end up going to a Super Bowl party because that's just what you do. And because of that, a lot of people see it as it's just a party to a lot of people. And that pisses off the people who actually give a shit about the sport. But let's just go over some of the data to really show the disparity. 75% of Americans plan on watching the Super Bowl. That's 75, but only 38% of them actually give a shit about the sport. So it's a weird... Oh my gosh, that's a weird disparity between jocks and nerds, you know what I mean? According to surveys, an overwhelming majority of Americans are more excited for the halftime show commercials than drinking. It makes sense that Super Bowl Sunday is overshadowed by the party itself. Because, like, the only day Americans eat more food...
Yeah, they just watch the Super Bowl for the fucking ads and fucking artists that are there that's performing. Like, lots of them don't care about the actual game itself.
is on Thanksgiving. We eat so much food on Super Bowl Sunday. 11.2 million pounds of chips are dipped into 8 million pounds of guacamole. 12.5 million pizzas are ordered. Over 1.45 billion wings are devoured, and approximately 14 billion burgers are burgered.
Billion?
Grilled. Why did I say burgered? And to wash it all down, approximately 50 million cases of beer are sold. God, doesn't that stat just want to? Don't you want to get behind the wheel of a car? But I mean, if you're trying to get someone in,
Like, is this just like America a couple million? Like, how? A billion is insane.
to Super Bowl Sunday, this amount of food and booze is a surefire way to get anyone hyped up for the season. Everyone loves an excuse to party, and that's pretty much what the Super Bowl has become. In fact, 16.1 million Americans plan to call off from work the next day. 6.4 million workers plan on going into work late, and approximately 6 million employees will call in sick. And I don't know what this does to the economy, but it cannot be good. All told, the financial impact from our collective super hangover is estimated to cost companies around $6 billion. Okay, so I put it in the script. I didn't remember that, so I'm glad I got that answer immediately. Honestly, I don't really care about the bottom line of business daddies. I don't really care what happens to them, but I do find it interesting that Super Bowl Sunday turns a bunch of seemingly normal people into absolute monsters. As someone who, look at me, doesn't really care about football. I don't want to shock you, but I mean, Jesus Christ. But when you go to these parties, you're gonna have to navigate certain types of people in order to get out of there alive. So I've broken down the types of people you're gonna meet into categories.
Yeah, they will kill you.
Big Tugg's Big Game Party Archetypes, which is BT, BG, PA. I don't know. I could have done that better. So up first, the one person you really got to worry about are the actual football fans. They're different. So actual football fans recognize each other in two distinct ways. Either by dress code, being like a jersey, but not like you can't just like pick.
Like, I saw like clips or like some videos like about like football fans getting enraged over like the opposing teams. Like they try to fight them. Like, my dude, are you that fucking insane? Like, why?
Jersey, it has to be like a vintage logo or like a player that like only it's like, you know, a deep cut, or they recognize each other by like when someone sits down and they're all watching the game and they're actually watching and then they start talking ball knowledge. For example,
I don't see that in any other sports except for the NFL or football, American football. Wait, I get the voices. Oh my god.
One of them might say, wow, I can't believe the D is running a 2-high nickel shell against the PFF's highest ranked tight end tandem. No f***ing clue what any of that means, but if someone says that, you know they're in the know.Ese people will band up together for the rest of the night and kind of just shit on everyone else who's not paying attention. And okay, so like, it's easy to hate on these people because we outnumber them at this point, but like, it's their big day. Let's not be dicks, okay? And they're super important because the majority of the night is watching a football game, and if you don't know what's going on, you're gonna need them to clue you in. You're gonna need them to dumb it down for you. So be kind.
They're the anime character, the side character that explains everything in an anime.
Offer to get them a beer every time you get up from the couch. Just really keep it low key. They're gonna talk a lot of shit to you. You just gotta handle that because you need to figure out what the is going on. The worst thing you can do to these people though is talk about the commercials. They hate that. They don't. Oh my god, if you ask them what they thought about that commercial, they'll kill you with their eyes. And also, it must be said that Super Bowl commercials are not what they used to be in the early 2000s and 2010s. They've fallen from grace extremely, so it's not that big of a deal anymore, but still, don't mention it to them, okay? Now, this next group of people are gonna seem like the first group of people, but they are distinctly different, and these are the degenerate gamblers, okay? Degenerate gamblers in the Super Bowl go hand in hand. It's like, ebony and ivory. Last year, 26 of American adults, nearly 68 million people placed a wager on the game, and the total amount of these wagers is approximately $23 billion. That's a lot of shoe money that people's children need. So that being said, statistically, there's going to be at least one degenerate gambler sitting next to you at a party. Now, once again, you'll notice them, and they're going to be yelling at the TV just like the sports fans, but they're going to have esoteric knowledge about the game. They're going to have knowledge about really extremely minute things because they placed a 10-leg parlay on very specific moments in the game, and they need to really let those things hit. And you can bet on anything at the Super Bowl. You can bet on the coin toss. You can bet on the color of Gatorade that's dumped on a dude's head at the end. And while the other dudes might get angry at the TV screen, they're not going to get scared. And that's the difference between a degenerate gambler and a regular football fan. The degenerate gambler gets scared during the game. Because if certain things happen
They
or
lose
certain
money.
things don't happen, they will not be able to eat tonight. It's just best to give these people a wide berth, or at the very least start gambling with them so they can cry on someone's shoulder who understands. And then finally, we have a group of people that a lot of us were, a lot of us are, and we need to discuss it. And these people are the sports ball people.
What the hell is that?
We got to stop doing this, guys. Listen, in
Sports
2013, this was a good joke. When you showed up to a sporting event and you were like, oh, I don't know anything about what's this sports ball? What are these jokes talking about? That joke's not funny anymore. It's actually really pathetic. You please understand that it is not good. These are the people who show up to the party and think they're better than everyone else because they don't care about football. And that makes them, I don't know, intelligent or have a higher level of intellect, I guess. And I was there. Listen, I was there. We were all Tumblr kids. We all get that. But you have to understand that not liking fun things doesn't make you interesting. It makes you boring. That's a really important fact of life that we all have to learn at one point. Don't talk about how the NFL's evil because of their concussion protocol. Don't talk about like everything I talked about with the money. Don't leave that shit at the door. So just knock it off, all right? We're done with that. But now that we've discussed all the weird people at the party, let's discuss the game itself. And I'm not going to talk about football because I don't know anything about that, but we can talk about the fanfare. Usually we pay extra money to avoid ads in America, like premium streaming services like Netflix or Extra Tugg, and go to extratugg.com and see a bunch of fun, just fun. But Super Bowl commercials have become the cultural currency of water coolers and lunch breaks on the Monday after the game. And advertisers are willing to pay anything to get their product in front of hundreds of millions of eyeballs. During the first Super Bowl, a 30-second ad only cost $42,500. Today, a 30-second Super Bowl ad costs $7 million. That's about $233,333 per second on the TV. The buzz from commercials became such a big deal that in 1989, USA Today created the Super Bowl ad meter. It's a real-time survey that asks consumers how they felt about each Super Bowl ad. The results are used as a metric by many advertisers and consumers to see which company won the big game. And this, I mean, Jesus Christ, how dystopian is this? So, like, we're all like judging.
Ads are
how
winning
well did you sell your product to me? More food for me, please. But even though these ads never topped the ad meter list, I'd be remiss not to mention the Bud Bowl. Variations of this ad ran during the Super Bowl from 1989 to 1997, featuring bottles of Budweiser and Bud Light playing a game of football against each other. And this is, I mean, these commercials are perfectly stupid. This is just like, this is what you expect to see on Super Bowl Sunday. The bottles are wearing helmets. The fans are cans. It's all perfect. It's all laid out before us. The Bud Bowl was America, unfiltered, golden roasted tobacco. So we get through the pregame some of the ads. Now it's time for the big thing that people mostly care about, which is the halftime show. The big kahuna, the thing that you can't believe how much money they spent on this goddamn thing. But it wasn't always a huge production. For the first several decades of its existence, the Super Bowl halftime show was primarily a showcase for marching bands. But then the Super Bowl 23 halftime show was completely unhinged. It was broadcast in, quote, 3D and featured an Elvis impersonator named Elvis Presto. Finally, at Super Bowl 25 with Whitney Houston, they figured out the formula. Use pop stars. Just use goddamn pop stars. Today, performing at the halftime show is a bucket list item for any pop star trying to make their way in this world, but it's more about legacy and exposure because this gig does not pay that much, I found out. You don't earn a single cent doing the halftime show. None of the celebrities have ever earned any money doing that. However, generally, performers will see a boost in their streams and album sales over 300%, so it evens out. At one point, the NFL even tried to get performers to pay to get on the halftime show. But even with a very weird business model, there's no denying just how grand a spectacle the halftime show can be. I mean, Prince performing Purple Rain while it was raining was generational peak. And then there was the Justin Timberlake, Janet Jackson nipple thing where she showed her nipple. That was weird. And of course, the Katy Perry halftime performance, which birthed the meme of the left shark who had no clue what he was doing, and I love that little guy. And then to finish it out, there is the game. The football game. And like I said, I don't care about it. Most people don't care about it, but to the people who do, it means a lot. So just give them their space. But statistically, throughout a football game, only 11 minutes of the actual game are played. I like hockey, and a lot of hockey is played during the game of hockey. What the is that number? I don't know how you have the time to decide who's the better team in only 11 minutes. That makes no sense to me. And what is special teams? And
just 11 minutes. 11 minutes. How long does the Super Bowl last? Because like if the actual game is 11 minutes, how How long does the Super Bowl last?
I just want to talk about how football confuses the shit out of me as an absolute dork on the internet. Listen, I'm trying to learn, but like every time a play is done and someone there's like a billion plays that you can do. And then there's a bunch of types of penalties that don't make any sense to me. There always seems to be a new rule that, oh, you can't do that. That's a rule. Tom Brady made sure of that. And when your team loses, your city gets burned down. And when your team wins, you burn down your city. If you're Philadelphia, just doesn't seem like fun at all. I don't know. We should have two separate things at this point. We should have a Sunday in February where everyone just has a party, and a Sunday where the game happens, and those are completely different things. Let the mass media sell you ads during the party. Just everyone sit down and just zone out watching the TV. Let the football people watch football and gamble their life savings away. I think that's what it should be at this point. Anyway, no conclusion.
True.
I guess that was a conclusion. Like, comment, and subscribe. New videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Shout out to the Extra Tugglets, though. They're the real heroes of the football game. They went to extratug.com. They subscribe for an extra video every week, as well as updates and goodies, and they get to play polls, and it's very fun, and everyone's having a good time over there. Look at all the names. I mean, you can't go wrong with all those names, right? All right. Well,
it's not even just like all their sports. They do that to all their sports. It's specifically only like American football. From what I see, they go crazy over that shit.
It's good. It's worth it. Happy football.
I don't know. Oh my god, they act like they don't do that as much in like baseball, or like I think baseball, like I can see some, but it's not as popular. But in basketball, not as much. But American football, you will always see something like happen, and just fucking like something insane will be going on, and just like a city is burning, a fucking car is burning outside. Oh my god, I don't know what the fuck are they doing though.
Everybody. I did the sports ball thing again. God damn it. All right, have a good one, guys. God damn it.